Hello, everyone. We are right at the top of the hour right now, so I am just going to give it a few more minutes for a few more people to join, and then we will get started. I can see quite a few people trying to get in right now, so
Wonderful.
that's the fun thing about Zoom is you got to figure out your camera, you've got to figure out your microphone, you got to make sure you have all your settings right.
What's the good angle?
And I know we have some parts managers in the queue right now because I can always tell when there's a parts manager because they type in all caps.
Always yelling at somebody?
If you're no, if you're, I think the what most parts managers have told me is that
Mm.
a lot of the times when they're putting in like order numbers, there it's like a VIN number or an order number.
Makes sense.
So they will have their keyboard set to caps lock and they
Yep,
just never turn it off. So I can always tell if I'm getting an email from a parts manager because the entire email is in all caps or the name signature is in all caps
that is awesome.
because they just don't ever turn caps lock off.
Yep, makes sense.
Which if I had to enter VIN numbers and part numbers all day, every day, I probably would never turn caps lock off either.
I would not for sure.
Let me make sure I've got my Q&A settings here so that people can submit questions or chat with us.
Questions. We love questions.
We
Questions
do.
are good.
All right. It looks like everything is set up so that the attendees can chat with us if they've got questions. We are at 12:02, so I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Got a couple of slides to go through before we get into the meat and potatoes of it. So if we get a few more people that join us after we get started, that's okay. So, everyone, welcome. Today, we're going to talk about aftermarket parts and we're going to talk about selling aftermarket parts in your dealership. And I think that's a new topic for a lot of people. And so, we're kind of excited to share some information, some numbers, some details about aftermarket and how it could potentially benefit your dealership if it's a venture that you're looking to go on. And I'm going to give you a little bit of information about the presentation as a whole, and then we'll get into who we are and why you should listen to us. So, the very first thing is we are currently recording this webinar. So, when the webinar is over, if you would like to revisit any of the information, share it with someone else at your dealership, give somebody access to listen to the recording. We're going to share the recording after the webinar. However, feel free to screenshot anything that you see at any point during the webinar. None of this is secret. It's all public information. So you can screenshot it, you can share it, you can I mean, I don't care if you screen record it, but again, we're going to share it. So it might be easier if you just take the link once we share it with you. And if you have any questions during the webinar, there is a chat box and a Q&A box. We will get to the Q&A box at the end of the webinar, but the chat box we're going to be monitoring throughout the entire webinar. So if you have questions during the webinar that you don't want to wait for the very end for us to answer, drop them in the chat box and we will answer them earlier if we can. Comments, concerns, anything like that, feel free to drop them into the chat box and Gideon and I will answer them. Gideon, why don't you introduce yourself and tell all of our wonderful attendees why they should listen to you?
Oh, fantastic. Well, welcome, folks. Gideon Williams. I head up the aftermarket side of the business for Revolution Parts. Very excited to be here. My career has taken me inside of almost every aspect of the aftermarket since I have been a professional. And so I am very excited to share knowledge on the aftermarket, things that we have been building for you as a dealer. We really want to help focus your dealership and your parts division to not only carrying out your OE mission, but also to keep the customer longer. So I work with every aspect on the aftermarket, from suppliers to data to how our dealers are incorporating it into their business. And very excited to be here. Please, any questions, shoot them our way. We'd love to get them, and we are very excited to showcase what we have for you today. And hopefully this can spark some curiosity and more questions as we work through this.
Yeah, I think as far as this webinar goes, as opposed to all of our other webinars, it's going to leave more questions than answers because we're touching on a topic that's brand new to a lot of dealerships. And so I know that this is going to leave more questions. So please feel free to ask us any questions that you have. But if you don't feel comfortable asking them, marketing at Revolution Parts is also somewhere that you can reach out to so that you can ask any questions directly. You all got an email from me, I think an hour ago, letting you know that the webinar was going to start soon. So you can also reply to that email. And you can ask your questions directly. But my name's Amanda, and not only am I a part of the marketing team here at Revolution Parts, I have about 15 years of experience in marketing, more than a decade of which has been in automotive marketing. And I've had the pleasure of working on the fixed ops and variable ops sides of the dealership to help market not only parts and service, but also to market um, vehicles, new and used, and the dealership as a whole. So I've got a lot of marketing experience. I don't think that's necessarily why you should listen to me talk about aftermarket, but I will tell you that I'm also a lifelong automotive enthusiast, and I'm very excited to be here. And I'm very excited about this new offering from Revolution Parts because I am personally very invested in the world of aftermarket parts and a extremely, probably unnecessarily frequent buyer of aftermarket parts. So I've got some personal and professional experience there as well. So I'm excited to talk about the opportunity for dealerships and what aftermarket parts are doing for, or what aftermarket parts are doing for the automotive industry as a whole. Let's get into it. We're going to have a quick poll here in just a second. Got some questions for you guys to answer so we can better frame the conversation around what your level of experience is with aftermarket in your dealership. Then we're going to talk about the numbers, margins, really where the profits come from, the opportunity of aftermarket parts for each of the departments, the cost of doing nothing, and then Q&A. So getting right into it, I'm going to open up a poll. This is going to pop up on your screen. It's not required that you answer it, but if you would answer a couple of questions, it would give us a better idea of your experience, what it is that you're looking for, maybe the questions that you may have. So maybe we can answer those questions before you even have a chance to ask them. So I'm going to give just a couple of minutes. There's 3 questions, and I'm going to give just a couple of minutes for people to answer some of these questions. First one, are you currently selling aftermarket parts and accessories? I think most people are probably going to say yes. You probably are selling aftermarket parts and accessories through an approved vendor, like with Mopar, it's AEV. And so you probably have some experience selling aftermarket parts and accessories in your dealership. The next question, what's your biggest obstacle to selling aftermarket parts? So let's say that you're currently selling aftermarket parts in your dealership, but you haven't expanded. Why haven't you expanded? What's the thing that's keeping you from expanding or really getting into it and exploring the opportunity? And then the last thing, how important are higher margin products to your parts department growth goals? So I think everybody wants to grow. Every GM out there is telling every parts department out there, you got to find ways to bring in more money. And my question for you is, are you looking to sell higher margin parts? Are you looking to just sell more parts? Is volume more important? So let us know what level of importance high margins are for you. We've got 57% of people have voted so far. So I'm going to give it just another minute before we move on. All right. I'm going to leave that poll open for just another minute, just in case that last couple of people that haven't answered are able to. But let's go ahead and get into the first one. Gideon, the answer to how important are higher margin products to your parts department growth goals? 100% of our audience said very.
Yes. Yeah. So that segues us nicely into high margin business. So when we start to think about the aftermarket, we're really focusing in on your performance, your accessories, and you're really asking the question is, how do I get that product inside my dealership, right? So our first goal here is to understand how big of an opportunity is it to have is it ahead of us. We look at the global aftermarket across the performance sector as continually growing. We know that enthusiasts across the board always are looking for aftermarket performance. How do I get the 2-inch lift kit or the 4-inch lift kit or the exhaust pipes? So when we look at the aftermarket, generally speaking, it supports a part of the industry that, quite frankly, is I don't think a dealership can afford to miss. We know it's growing. We look year over year from 14 to 32. We're projecting into the $750 billion range. And so you really have to ask yourself, how do I incorporate some of that growth into my dealership, right? We're really good on the OE space. We do a really good job on mechanical. We're getting the customers in and out. We're satisfying them. But when we look at margin, generally speaking, for the aftermarket, if we start to look at the performance accessory side, many of those products offer margins in the north of 30, 28 to 45% gross profit. And so as you look at your parts department and you think, well, how do we grow? We're really doing well on the OE side, or we're going to continue to do better. The biggest and easiest path to growth is incorporating certain aftermarket brands that you guys know will sell. Maybe you're working with them today in some, manner that has friction. That's one path that Revolution Parts is working to incorporate and making it very turnkey for you. But we are seeing the margin around those categories in the performance and accessory space reach north of 30%. And so when you look at growth, you start to look at revenues, you start to look at additional selling channels, additional customer acquisitions. We do see this as a growing segment. There are no indicators that this is not a growing segment. Hence the reason, Amanda, you and I are focusing on this segment because we see it as a great opportunity to bring your customers in, give them an additional service to what you're already providing with the infrastructure that you already have built. And so, as we look ahead, all indicators are pointing to a growth sector here. In addition to, I believe this is an untapped market. I know manufacturers on the aftermarket side that we're working with today are very excited to work with our Revolution Parts. They're very excited to support our dealers and our customer base for their specific needs, right? They want you to have that customer long term. And so our goal, selfishly, is to move some of that global automotive aftermarket growth from where it sits today into the dealer space. That is our objective to where it really pairs well with your current business. So, yeah, we continue to see a CAGR of 6 to 7%, and I think we're going to continue to see that year over year.
Absolutely, very well put. This is a product and offering and an opportunity that almost no dealerships are taking advantage of. I used Mopar as an example. So Mopar, I think every Mopar dealership, or let me just say every Jeep dealership has an AEV display somewhere in its parts department, or at least most of the big ones do. And if you want to buy aftermarket performance parts for your Jeep, you're pretty much presented with Mopar parts or AEV parts. And the dealership considers those AEV parts to be the aftermarket opportunity. And they're great parts, but it's one option. There are thousands of aftermarket brands out there that offer parts that AEV will never offer, that offer things that are more affordable, that offer things that are more customizable, that offer things that are for different purposes than AEV. I think it's a great brand. I would love to have all AEV parts on my Jeep. Unfortunately, I can't afford it because they're some of the most expensive aftermarket parts out there. And so a lot of the opportunity lies in brands that are not currently in the dealership or even available to the dealership. And I'm really excited about this opportunity because it's giving dealerships the opportunity to not only sell aftermarket performance parts within their parts department, but also to increase their profit margins. Now, I can't speak to profit margins of any aftermarket parts that you guys are currently selling in your dealership. I know that BMW's got a few customized brands. I know that Mopar's got some, Ford's got some. Basically, every OEM has some form of aftermarket performance modification parts that you're currently selling in your dealership through your OEM's partnership with that aftermarket supplier. However, there are millions of additional parts available, and Revolution Parts is developing the relationships with those manufacturers and with those distributors to give you the ability to sell those parts in your dealership as well. And the profit margin on the parts that we are offering to the dealership is between 30 and 40%, as Gideon already mentioned. And so, regardless of whatever your profit margin is for your current aftermarket offering, if you do have any, our performance parts can deliver a 30 to 40% margin. Now, for those that don't have any experience with e-commerce or selling aftermarket parts, The comparison is a typical 10 to 20% margin range for OEM parts. So for those dealerships that work with us, and we do have about 3,000 dealerships at this point that are working with us to sell OEM parts, it's cost plus 10 or cost plus 20. So whatever that part costs you, plus 10 to 20% is what you're able to sell that part for. That allows you to be in the range of competitiveness without entering into the world of losing money, which we've seen people do that before, pricing too low so you lose money, or pricing so high that the parts don't move. So that 10 to 20% margin is really kind of the range for OEM parts. Whereas in aftermarket parts, because we do have the relationships with the manufacturers and the distributors, you're looking at a 30 to 40% margin. Oftentimes on parts that are a lot more expensive than the OEM parts. And so you do have a really great opportunity to make a lot of cash very quickly by selling aftermarket parts. Again, millions of additional parts are available. We're working with over 100 different manufacturers, or I'm sorry, over 100 different brands across a lot of different manufacturers. And most of them, we're developing distributor relationships for those as well. So there's a lot of opportunity to sell a lot more parts within your dealership. And then most dealers aren't competing for it yet. If you look at the other
Yep.
dealerships around you, I mean, if I look at this poll, I've got uh, about half and half. About half of the people that are here on this webinar are currently selling aftermarket parts in their dealership or accessories, and about half of the people are not. So 50% on this webinar alone. A majority of dealers are not dabbling in aftermarket yet because of a couple of different reasons. One, their management doesn't want to. Two, they don't have the time, which according to our poll, 67% of our audience doesn't have the time, which we're going to talk about that because we figured that would be a reason. And then don't have the money to invest in the infrastructure. Others are just unsure of where to start. And we've 33% of our audience is unsure of where to start. And so the competition in aftermarket is low. The competition in OEM is high. So we're going to talk about how you can combine the two to increase your profit margins and increase your sales without increasing the number of people that work in your dealership and the amount of time you spend. Okay, let's talk about OEM versus aftermarket. This one's really easy. Gideon, I'll let you take a stab at this. And if
Sure.
I have any notes, I'll share my notes. But I think you know more about the aftermarket opportunity than I do.
Yeah. So, and also to kind of parlay off your point, Amanda, when we start looking at aftermarket, certainly as the dealer from their perspective, on the performance side, when we look at the enthusiast, the customer, like so, when we start to just start at the customer, how are they finding what they want on their vehicle? 95% start on Google. 95% of customers in that journey start in a search engine looking for a particular performance accessory, a widget, an upgrade package online. Anytime they start that search online, they will not find you as a dealer in their local market or in their national market. There is no question about it. Why? Because you don't offer it, right? And so that is one major opportunity that we have solved is giving you one click of a button to go to market with those particular performance brands that you can start to, one, capture that customer, get them back into your dealership, get them back into your service line. There's many other opportunities we'll get to in a little bit. But as it pertains to the aftermarket, there's really two or three critical pieces of the aftermarket. One, what's my margin? Right? That's the first question you're going to ask yourself as a parts manager. One, what is my margin and how many more people do I need to add to my staff? Well, you need to add nobody to your staff. And the margin is a 30 to 40% margin with how we have this set up with a couple of clicks of a button. When we look at brands, we want to work with the best. The best want to work with us. They understand where we sit in the market. They understand where our dealers sit in the market, and they understand our objectives for the dealer to drive more GMV, service your customer, give them, sure, the dealer's already given them the OE option, but we also now are offering them the aftermarket performance option as well. So it's another additional revenue channel for us. Um, I know we talked a lot about it, Amanda, around customers today that are wanting that new lift kit, and maybe they go to an independent installer or an upfitter, and the experience in that shop can be subpar, right, or sub optimal. The dealership has a beautiful It's a beautiful piece of property. It's a beautiful infrastructure. And so our goal here is to take the aftermarket that makes sense for your dealership, that pairs really well with what you already do today, and incorporate that into your business. Right? Incorporate a high margin parts selling opportunity. Incorporate brands that are very niche and enthusiastic based, right? They build products because they love their Jeep or they love their Ford or they love their GMC, right? And so we want to continue to support that mission for you as a dealership. There's no question about it. The margins are fantastic. The manufacturers make sure they're building that margin in for you. They want to build great products. They want you to sell great products, and they want you to make a margin that's acceptable. On the OE
Yeah, the
side,
difference.
yeah, go
Oh,
ahead, Amanda. Yep.
the difference between OE and aftermarket for you as a parts department is on the OE side, the OEM knows people are going to buy those parts. You kind of
Hmm.
have to, right?
It's mechanical.
Yeah, there's competition out there for OE parts, but is there any one-to-one replacement that is truly trustworthy? So most people with the OEM parts, they're going to buy those OEM parts. So that OEM can price those parts however they want to because they know people are going to buy those parts. With aftermarket, these aftermarket manufacturers have to be more competitive because you don't have to buy shocks from Rough Country. You could buy shocks from Skyjacker. You could buy shocks from Fox. You
Hmm.
could buy shocks. There's wheel and tire manufacturers. There's thousands of them. And so they have to be a little bit more competitive. And so they're incentivizing Revolution Parts dealers to sell their parts by offering them at a lower margin so that the dealership can make a higher profit and will want to sell their parts over other people's.
No question about it. That was very well said. Corporate
Thank you.
aftermarket. That's the opportunity.
Okay, so this is one that really excites me. So this is an area where I think a lot of dealerships don't even consider there to be profit in aftermarket. So when we're talking about aftermarket, you've got your online buyers and your online buyers and your existing customers. Those are really your two biggest opportunities. You're selling it online, you're drop shipping it directly from the manufacturer to the customer. You don't really ever have to get involved. You collect your 40%, the distributor ships it directly to them. You walk away happy with, maybe 15 seconds worth of work done on your Revolution Parts platform to collect that profit. That's fantastic. Your existing customer, again, that's somebody that's in your service department that's looking for an upgrade to their vehicle, or that's somebody that purchases a new vehicle from you and is looking to modify that vehicle. But there's a lot of other opportunities within the aftermarket space for parts departments and for service departments that I think a lot of people don't consider. And that's those specialty installers, those speed shops, those off-road shops, there's a lot of different, the European car importers, there's the collision and repair shops. A lot of those places don't currently have a local relationship with an aftermarket specialist. They have maybe a rep online that they can email sometimes that they have no idea how long shipping is going to take. They can't call them with customer service questions. They have all of these questions, but maybe they don't have a point of contact. And then there's other dealerships. So we know that aftermarket isn't right for every single dealership. There are dealerships out there that are going to say, well, we just can't get into this because we can't handle it. And so other dealerships are also going to be looking for the opportunity to buy some of these performance aftermarket parts from a trusted source. And so these opportunities fall under the wholesale bucket. So those of you that are currently doing wholesale, maybe you're offering wholesale parts to collision and repair shops, but you're not able to offer wholesale parts to specialty installers or to specialty shops like those speed shops and off-road shops. This gives you the opportunity to reach a whole new demographic with profit that, again, requires very little effort on your end. You have to provide good customer service. You have to pick up the phone when they call, but drop shipping directly from the manufacturer to that customer allows you to place those large orders. Those orders will ship quickly, arrive at the customer's store very quickly, provide a really great experience for your wholesale customer, and keep them coming back over and over again for not just aftermarket, but also OEM parts. And then the other thing is local vehicle owners. This opportunity is one that most dealerships are not currently tapping into because there isn't a way to tap into this. When I say local vehicle owners, I mean people who are currently going to other dealerships of the same brand, people who are going to other dealerships of different brands. So let's say you're a Ford dealer. A Chevrolet driver is probably not going to come to your dealership for an oil change. But if you have the opportunity to sell Chevrolet aftermarket upgrades, they could potentially come to your dealership for an aftermarket upgrade. Gideon and I were just talking about this earlier today. I have a very heavily, multiple actually, very heavily modified vehicles. And I would much rather go to a dealership to get that service done than go to some, maybe it's a shop that doesn't have a waiting room. When I got my lift installed in my Jeep, I sat in a folding chair in a greasy break room in a teeny tiny off road shop in the middle of nowhere. And I would have much rather had the clean, comfortable environment of the dealership with the free coffee and the air conditioner and the TVs and knowing that I'm going to be safe and comfortable. And so there's local vehicle buyers or local vehicle owners, not just within your OEM, but within other OEMs that you will have the opportunity to service if that's something you want to do. And so the opportunity in parts is not just national sales. Of course, you have the opportunity to drop ship, like Gideon said, click a
Mhm.
button and you're done. You have the opportunity to increase local sales. But then what's really, really important for a lot of people is you're not just increasing, you're not just becoming a trusted local supplier and selling parts across all vehicle brands and increasing your parts profit. There's the service customers. And so I think service customers are where the real profit comes in with aftermarket parts because most of those people don't just want a part shipped to them, they also need that part installed. Yes, you can drop ship with no effort. You collect your 40% and you walk away, but the increased profit for your dealership from multiple return customers in the service department is where there's really a lot of profit.
And if I can add something to that,
Yeah.
Amanda, I think that's, I know we're looking at it through the lens today as far as our dealers of their, I'm taking my OEM parts online, right? So I'm going from local to national. Very, very important. Now, as we look at the aftermarket side, we're taking your aftermarket performance brands that you guys really like from a not a market to a national market, right? So what
Yeah.
wasn't there is now there. That's incremental. That's net new. When you start to look at your GM, you start to look at your organization as a whole. How do we become a national brand? How do we become that dealer that is at the very top, from a recognizable perspective across the country? This is one opportunity. And to your point on the service side, I think this is actually a really big opportunity how we've built the aftermarket side of Revolution Parts to where it's one click. The performance part is either being shipped to my end consumer or it's being shipped to my dealer for install, right? That is a
Yeah.
really important opportunity there. So when we look at how do I, take the aftermarket and grow our customer base as a whole, grow our dealership as a whole, the service lane, now you have the ability instead of calls and emails and going through some sort of process per manufacturer, you can click one button. You have your selection of your options. What do you want to install in the vehicle? What are the brands? What are the different price points? What are the different qualities? And now one click of a button and they're moving, right? They're moving right to the dealership or they're moving right to my customer. It's an added value. It's an added opportunity to increase revenue, and ultimately become a parts department that is elite, right? That's the objective. How do you become an elite parts department that's supporting your service lane supporting your parts department, et cetera?
Absolutely. And that service, I mean, the service department is an area where Revolution Parts has never touched before. We
Hmm.
kind of have always said we know that the parts department serves the service department. We're here to serve the parts department. And, and so now with aftermarket, we are looking at a completely different opportunity. We're saying, well, how can we help parts to increase service revenue? And how can we help service to increase parts revenue? Because truly, the aftermarket performance parts go hand in hand with parts and service.
Hmm.
Because oftentimes these upgrades, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm not going to install a turbo on my vehicle
No,
by myself. I'm
no.
not going to install a new computer. I'm not going to, there's a long list of things that even the aftermarket enthusiast is not going to install themselves because they know that there's potential for a lot of damage to their vehicle if they screw that up. And so they need somebody trusted that can install it. And a lot of them would come to the dealership if the dealership was an option. I also talk to a lot of dealers all the time who will say, I have somebody come to my dealership with a part they purchased elsewhere that they want me to install. And so you've got a service drive customer that has ordered maybe that turbo, maybe it's a drive shaft, maybe it's, maybe it's new gears for their vehicle, something that they know they can't do at home and they need a trusted installer. So they're bringing a part that they purchased elsewhere into the dealership to have the dealership install it. So you're still getting those aftermarket service hours, but you're not getting the parts profit. And so we're cutting out the middleman
Bingo.
here and saying service can help parts make more profit. Parts can help service make more profit. If we all work together, there's a tremendous opportunity for everyone at the dealership. And so we talk about, so there's many revenue streams. The thing I always say about this is, yes, you have the initial parts sale. Yes, you have the initial installation, but modifying your vehicle is an addiction. I think if I asked
Yep.
everybody on this call who has a modified vehicle to raise their hand if they have more than one modified part, I think all of them would say they do. Because it's like, for me, it was the lift kit was the first thing. I bought a lift kit, and then you get the itch. You're like, well, that was fun. Now I've modified my vehicle. Now it's very unique to me. Now I need some wheels and tires. Now I need some bumpers. Now I need some gears. Now I need some drive shafts. Now I need, and the list just keeps going on and on and on. So you don't just get the potential for one part sale and for one installation labor, you get the potential for years and years and years of modifications. And I know for people like me who modify trucks and Jeeps, the only thing that we are really, really good at is breaking things. And so I will modify my vehicle and then I will be back in the dealership within it, 6 months to a year for them to modify something else and fix something I've just broken. So it's a revenue stream that just keeps going and going.
And one thing to add, even Amanda, on this, it's about the customer life cycle, right? If you look at the data and you look at from a dealership side, when do they lose a customer from the dealership service lane to the independent aftermarket, right? Even on the mechanical side, a lot of times when the warranty goes up, there's a chance that they lose it. Right. That I know from the aftermarket side is always preached, right? We want on the mechanical side. But when you start to look at performance and accessory, there's no reason to lose that customer, right?
Yeah,
And so you really want to keep that customer in your life cycle for as long as possible. And that's one big enabler that Revolution Parts is making and we've invested in is enabling the aftermarket side of the business. Now that
absolutely.
parlays into what your point is and exactly what the slide describes is pick up the revenue from the entire life cycle. Yes, it starts at the part, then it moves into the service install and the labor. And then you're looking at gross profit as you combine those two, not to mention maybe a new vehicle sale, right? That's neither here nor there, but it's about servicing the full life cycle of the customer.
Absolutely. I bought a truck in November, and that truck has a DEF system on it because it's a diesel vehicle. And I live in Texas, and the state of Texas just said that those DEF systems are no longer required in the state of Texas. And I can tell you with absolute certainty, I'm not going to go take that DEF system off my truck right now because it's under warranty. But when that warranty expires, that's a potential for a $3,000 exhaust purchase that a dealership could get from me if they were to offer those aftermarket exhaust systems for my truck. And so when that warranty expires, it's like for vehicle modifiers, all bets are off. You just went from bumpers and wheels and tires to suddenly you can start modifying the vehicle because it's not under warranty anymore and you don't have risks. And so when my warranty expires, I'll be taking that DEF system off, and I'm very excited about the increase to my gas mileage that I'm going to get when that comes off. But you're not just, I mean, with these aftermarket parts, with your local buyer, obviously with your online buyer, it could be a one-time sale and then never
Mhm.
again. But with your local buyer, with your current customer, or somebody else's customer that you're bringing over to your dealership, there's obviously potential to make a lot more than just one sale. Okay, but this is another area. So another thing I want to talk about. We talked a lot about parts and service, and I again, I bet if I asked people here to raise their hand, we probably got a majority parts and service people. Parts and service people are usually the ones that are following us the closest and are the most interested in the things we have to say. But I'm looking to sales and F&I right now because sales and F&I also have an opportunity within aftermarket parts. And it's an opportunity maybe even greater than that the service department has. And I mean, how many people here, Gideon, I'm sure you've purchased a new vehicle recently.
Mhm.
How many people here have purchased a new vehicle and have had window tint or door protectors or those seal guards put on their vehicle? Probably everyone here has purchased a vehicle at some point in time and has had some sort of a dealer, they call them dealer add-ons. Now, I know that the F&I and the sales team is going to say, well, people argue about those all the time. They're such a pain to sell. It's not a pain to sell. Truck bed covers, toolboxes, truck bed
Mhm.
liners, bull bars, grab bars, side steps. There's a lot of things that the dealership could be putting on those vehicles that they aren't because the profit margins are not high enough. But whenever you're talking about a 30 to 40% profit margin, dealer installed upgrade packages not only increase the sales price of the vehicle, they increase the finance price and can increase the overall interest that the dealership is gathering when they sell that vehicle. So there is opportunity on new and used. How many times have we purchased a used vehicle as a dealership and needed to replace something on that vehicle? There's profit margin, 30 to 40% profit margin for the parts department in adding that, but then additional profit margin on top of that for sales and F&I because it increases the overall sales price of that vehicle. And I absolutely promise you, you'll have a lot easier time selling a truck bed cover than you do window tint in a lot of places. So the aftermarket performance modifications and accessories that are offered on Revolution Parts bring not just opportunity to parts and service, but also sales and F&I. All right,
Okay.
Gideon, I'm going to hand this one over to you.
Yep.
This is
Yep.
math. I
So
don't like math.
yeah, that's fine. So cost of ignoring aftermarket. So it's very simple. We start to back into the math, right? There's a very strong gross profit, 30 to 40% gross profit on the aftermarket performance. The ticket items, right? They range from anywhere from, sub couple $100 up to multiple thousands, right? Depends. Is it exhaust? Is it the lift kit? Is it the suspension? Am I doing all at once? So ignoring aftermarket. Today, your offering is obviously your OE parts, right? You want mechanical to be OE. It's not an emotional buy. It is 100% a need, right? My vehicle's down. I need it installed and I need to get back up and running. The aftermarket side as a consumer, they are searching and looking and doing research. So when we look at ignoring the aftermarket, anytime there is an emotional buy, your gross profit margin goes up, the ticket item goes up. Everything about that becomes I want, right? So from a dealership perspective, you're already competing amongst other dealers for the OE sale, right? But when you start to add in the aftermarket option for the emotional buy, gross profit goes up. GMV or sales go up. You begin to not ignore the opportunity in the aftermarket. You're getting more connected with the psychological side of owning a vehicle, a Jeep, a Ford, whatever that enthusiast loves. Again, these are pure conservative estimates on what we believe. We obviously in the early in the webinar went over what is the opportunity, what is the growth opportunity of the aftermarket. But when you simply ignore it, as Revolution Parts is making it as easy as possible, we've already connected the suppliers, we've already connected in the data. It's simply a matter of activating it within your offering. Is I believe these are very conservative to say you're leaving a little under $250,000 a year on the table. But if you back into the gross profit, ignoring it can ultimately lead to one, we for sure are never going to sell it, versus if we take action against it, we can now watch the growth happen and now we can report out on a net new selling channel or a net new offering that our dealership provides, not even taking into account the service lane, the install, the labor hours. So I encourage, I mean, I head up the aftermarket side of the business. I love the aftermarket. It's a great passion of mine. And I've watched all of the things that have happened and I know the industry quite well. I think that there's a really big opportunity for dealerships to be front and center, not only with the customer relationship, but also supporting the customer needs, right? Mechanical, yes, we got it. That's excellent. Performance related, yes, we have it. Excellent. Now we are offering that customer and we are meeting them where their needs and their wants lie, creates an opportunity, creates gross profit, and it's very simple to do.
Absolutely. Now, let's say that you attended this webinar and that you found it useful and that you need to convince somebody else at your dealership to also be interested. This is a QR code that goes to about a 5-minute video that I created that summarizes a lot of the things we talked about today. Kind of covers who aftermarket benefits, what the aftermarket parts buyer looks like for a dealership, and how that aftermarket parts buyer can bring profit to your dealership. So if you've got somebody that you want to share this information with, but maybe they don't have a lot of time or a great attention span, I deal with that a lot at the dealership. Maybe they don't have a lot of time and you want them to watch a shorter version of this. You can share this QR code or a link to this QR code, or the link from the QR code, sorry, with them. Again, we are going to share the recording, so you can also share the recording with them. But I just had a few really good questions come in. I'm going to get to QA in just a minute. But I want to touch on another topic before we get into QA real quick. and that is how to get started. How does this work? And I think, Gideon, we've talked a lot about, what's the benefit, who this is for, who your parts buyer, your aftermarket performance parts buyer is, why you should do this, what the profit is. We've talked about a lot of the reasons, but the thing that I think a lot of people, especially, given the poll answers that we got, a thing that a lot of people struggle with is time. Is,
Hmm.
well, how do I get started in this? And how do I know this is actually going to make me money when I have very minimal time? And that is, the short answer is through the integration with Revolution Parts.
That's right.
We integrate with your DMS, we integrate with your inventory, we integrate with your dealership systems as a whole, and we add this aftermarket product to your existing Revolution Parts store if you're an existing customer, or your Revolution Parts store if you decide you're going to sign up. You can process orders, you can adjust pricing, you can accept drop ship orders that are never even coming to your dealership. You can send quotes, you can send estimates, verify VIN numbers, all of this automatically within your Revolution Parts system. And so we make it very, very easy, not only for people to sign up to sell parts, but to also go about the process of selling those parts. We have a ton of testimonials on our website from dealerships who will tell you, I spend somewhere between 15 and 30 minutes every morning when I first arrive processing orders, printing out packing slips if it's an order we have in-house, or accepting orders if it's an order that's coming from the warehouse. And then after that 15 to 30 minutes, I get on with my day. And so they're able to process thousands of dollars worth of orders in 15 to 30 minutes per day without adding a completely new person or
Right.
process or, headache to their dealership. And then on top of that, that 15 to 30 minutes that we just added to your day every morning processing these dropship orders, we're eliminating several hours worth of work later on in your day by streamlining processes that you are already going through on a daily
Hmm.
basis,
That's right.
like my favorite headache for the parts department, VIN verifications. How many times have you sat on the phone with somebody who trying to verify their VIN number for a part that they're ordering, and you're trying to go through the alphabet with them to understand what they're saying, and you can't understand what they're saying. You just wasted 10 minutes on the phone with somebody trying to get a VIN number. Well, instead of doing that, the Revolution Part System allows you to put their phone number in, send them the quote for the part, have them input their own VIN, which we will then verify that VIN for you. And you can take that 10-minute phone call and make it a 1-minute phone call. And so, or you could make it not a phone call at all. You could take an email and you could respond to that email with a link so they don't ever actually call the dealership at all. That's just one example. And so we try to make selling not just parts, but aftermarket parts a lot easier so that you can get that profit without having to spend a lot of time. So the process to get
That's
started
right.
is very, very easy. And so I just wanted to mention that because people are
Yeah,
talking about how they don't have time.
and to finalize on that, just to piggyback off that, I mean, it's very simple. We've already done the work, right?
Yeah.
We've already gone and we've established supplier connections. We've established the data. So for us, it's very easy. How do I get started? Well, just ask, right? Ask about it. It's simply a matter of a couple of clicks and you're off and running. You do not have to add any headcount. It is about as easy as it gets. And that was one major objective that we wanted to ensure was solved when we rolled out the aftermarket side of the business.
Absolutely. Okay, related to that, I've got a couple of questions in the Q&A box here. If you come up with any questions while we're answering these
Please.
questions, drop them in the Q&A box and we'll happily answer them live. We've got a few minutes left, so I want to make sure that we get to the most important questions first. What's the cost to get started? As far as selling aftermarket parts in your dealership, we're not charging anything for access to the aftermarket catalogs for all of 2026. And we are doing that because we want you to test it. We want you to see it. We want you to realize that it works for your dealership. But we also want to optimize your dealership operations so that you're making the most money from these aftermarket catalogs before you ever pay Revolution Parts a cent for getting started with aftermarket. There is a certain cost associated to actually getting the store set up. It varies by OEM. So cost to get started varies based on who your OEM is. So just reach out to us and we'll happily give you the information on getting your store set up. But adding aftermarket to your store, there is no cost for that. How does drop shipping work? Gideon has done a ton of work to develop distributor relationships. He laughs because it's
Yes.
been how many years in the making, Gideon?
This has been about 2 years in the making, internally, externally. And I know we laugh a lot about it now, but it's to me, it's really fun work. I love the industry. I love the OE industry. I love the aftermarket, and I believe we're bringing it together in a big way.
Absolutely.
So when you ask, well, how does drop shipping work? It's very simple. It is when you have your Revolution Parts account, you simply click a button and you drop ship that order directly to the supplier. What goes on behind the scenes is what we've built. We have a relationship with that supplier, whether it's Rough Country or whether it's a big WD that has a ton of inventory and a ton of brand offerings. We've already set up all of the operational, all of the processes to where you, as the dealership, can click one button, the order fires over to the supplier. They pick it up, put it in the box, they ship it to you, or they ship it to your customer. Very simple. It is not hard. It's about as intuitive as it gets. And quite frankly, I think that that is the opportunity in the drop ship for the aftermarket.
And then it's going to ship out from that warehouse within a day so that
That's
it's
right.
in your customer's hands within a couple of days. And so it's a very quick and easy process. And again, it doesn't making money isn't any easier than that. It's that 30 minutes a day that you sit hitting accept on orders and you accept those orders, you send them to the warehouse, the distributor ships them to your customer, you collect your 30 to 40%. That 40% goes directly into your bank account and then you move on with your day. And so we've
That's
made
right.
drip shopping or drop shipping as easy as possible. But then the other question is when my customer wants to purchase a part for me from or for my service department to install, how long does it take for that part to get to me? Same answer, a couple of
That's right.
days, which I have ordered parts from Mopar Parts Online many, many times. And I can tell you it is not a couple of days. So
Well,
we're,
to your point on that, Amanda, that's a really good point. I want to actually touch on this.
yeah,
We monitor our suppliers' SLAs very aggressively.
yeah.
And in our partnerships, when they're supplying Revolution Parts clients and dealers, it is a 1 business day SLA. As we look at all of the analytics behind the number of shipments that are going out every single day, most suppliers will have it in the box with a tracking number within 4 hours. And so that's really a standard and a culture that we've set with our suppliers. To your point, that's why you know, hey, I am going to get this with a high level of confidence within X number of days because I know they're going to put it in the box within 4 hours, 1 business day, et cetera.
Now, let's say like your customer calls you on a Monday morning and says, "Hey, I want you to install new, let's just say wheels. I want you to install new wheels and tires on my vehicle. These are the wheels I want to order." They order them that day. They give you a credit card number. You get everything processed, and the shipment of those wheels and tires goes out to you the same day. You could be installing them by Friday, maybe even Thursday, depending on where in the country you are. And so it's not a long process at all. And anybody who's ever ordered an OEM part knows that the aftermarket parts are going to come to you a whole lot quicker than those OEM parts are. So it's going to be a lot easier to sell those parts to your customer and get a really quick turnaround on installing those parts. All right, I got something in the Q&A box. Are there company reps that visit our dealership and handle our account? We do not come and stop in and bug you in person. We schedule conversations with you in advance. I think that coming in and bugging you in person unexpected just makes your day a lot harder. So when it comes to Revolution Parts, we have our CSM team, which is our customer service managers, and they are fantastic. They schedule calls with you in advance at your convenience. They're constantly going over your reporting with you to make sure that you've got the information that you need from your account to make sure that you're being successful. They go over best practices. They're going to cover things like pricing, which parts you should sell, the shipping times, if you're shipping parts out yourself, discounts, coupon codes, specials, all of these things. They'll cover all of those things with you, give you best practices, and help you to be successful. I don't want to say a time period because sometimes I talk to parts managers and they're like, once a month, that's not enough. Other time I talk to parts managers and they're like, once a month, why do I need to meet with them that often?
Mhm.
So we let you guys decide. You guys get to decide. Do you want to meet with your Revolution Parts exec, once a week, once a month, once a quarter? That's entirely up to you. And so we try to make it easy for you to be successful without having some random person stop in on your dealership unexpected. All right, next question. Do I get to pick what aftermarket parts I sell? Gideon, that's a really great one.
The answer is yes, right? Think of it as we're doing the work to enable you. We have recommended brands for your dealership. For example, some performance brands may not work for Audi and some may work for Ford, right? And so our goal here is to enable you with brand packages that make sense for your dealership because always in the performance and accessory world, manufacturers, they started as enthusiasts. Right. And so they really are focused on the BMW i Series, right? Or they're really focused on certain type of models. So we'll always make a recommendation based on what OEM you are, and those brands are typically what maybe we would recommend. But also, if you guys have any ideas on brands that you want to sell, it is purely up to you. You do not have to sell all. You can sell one, you can sell five, you can sell 10. It's really up to you. But at the end of the day, it's about servicing your customer and giving them one, two, or three options, right, for that performance modification that you now can install.
Absolutely. All right, last question. I want to make sure we don't go over time and keep these people too long. Last question. How do I compete with major online retailers that sell millions of parts a year? That was my first question too when we first got into this is, how do these dealerships compete with Rock Auto? How do these dealerships compete with, Extreme Terrain? Is you've got these websites that are selling performance parts and they're selling millions of them a year. How do you as a dealership compete with that? And I will tell you that in your local market, nobody can compete better than you can because uh, companies like Rock Auto, shipping is going to take time with Rock Auto. There's not going to be any guarantee that the correct part's going to arrive, that the part's going to arrive in one piece. There's really no guarantee. And so then the customer has to worry about, well, am I going to end up having to exchange this part? Is this going to work? Whereas in your local market, you have a name people recognize. You
Yep.
have the backing of an OEM. So you already have a certain amount of trust based simply off the fact that you have Ford, Jeep, GM, Toyota in your name. So you have the backing of your OEM and the trust that's automatically comes with that OEM. But also you have the internet authority of being local. And so we have with the Revolution Parts Marketing Agency, we have the opportunity for you to market these aftermarket parts locally. You can market only certain parts that we know we're going to sell quickly that are going to bring you a great return on investment. Again, you work with the Revolution Parts Marketing Agency, so you decide what you're going to market. And when it comes to online authority, when you're marketing parts online, local businesses automatically always take precedence over national businesses. And so with the, Google Shopping, for instance, or eBay, is that the local customer or the local business is going to take precedence over the national business because they know that there's more reliability, there's more trust, and obviously shorter shipping costs whenever it's coming from a local business. And so we make it really easy for you to be competitive. We make it really easy for you to sell the right parts to the right person at the right time so that you can make maximum profit with minimal effort. And so we work really hard to make it as easy on our dealerships as we possibly can, but also to allow them to grow. We just had a webinar a couple of months ago where Brian Benstock from Paragon Honda grew his dealership profit 800% with Revolution Parts
Yep.
in 6 months, 5 months. I think it was 5 months. Um, and so we make it easy to grow, but we also make it easy that if big growth and fast growth is important, we can help with that too. So the best way to really get the answer to what growth and profit looks like for your dealership is to talk to somebody from our team because the experts on our team will be able to look at your growth goals and be able to give you a real time period and a real cost of what you can expect to achieve those growth goals. Gideon,
Well
anything
said.
else you want to add?
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. I think at the end of the day, the takeaways is that the aftermarket is a big opportunity. There's no reason why a dealership shouldn't incorporate it. It's a focus of mine personally and professionally and within the organization. And so we're going to continue to working hard to drive more business into the dealership, make it operationally turnkey. We want this to be no additional overhead, no additional human capital. Um, it's easy to train a drop ship module, click a button and the order gets sent to the supplier and it gets shipped. That's as easy as that. So we look forward to serving you. We look forward to serving the dealerships and continuing to. And if you have any questions, reach out to marketing. If it's something for me personally, feel free. You can reach me at my email or LinkedIn or however you'd like. But yeah, we really appreciate working with the industry and we look forward to doing some great things together.
Absolutely. Keep an eye out. There's going to be more aftermarket content going out from marketing in the next few weeks. We've got some great new pieces kind of talking through some of the profit and some of the benefits of working with Revolution Parts in the aftermarket space. If you've got any questions in the meantime, reach out to us, marketing at revolutionparts.com. We'll be happy to answer those questions. And the recording of this webinar will go out within the next couple of days so you can rewatch it and share it as necessary.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda.
Thanks, everyone. Talk to y'all soon.